So the question is saying two forces of equal magnitude act at a point and the resultant is equal to either of them. Then find the angle between the two force vectors. Okay. So let's say what it's saying is that there are two force vectors which are acting at a point. One force is F1 and let's say another force is F2 and the angle between them is theta. Now it is firstly given that F1 has the magnitude equal to F2. Okay. And it also says that the resultant of these two also has the same magnitude as either of them. So from that you have to find theta. Okay, so it's very simple. Just apply the statement of triangle law. Okay. So F1 plus F2's magnitude is equal to square root of F1 square plus this formula. अभी इसमें क्या करो, substitute this as suppose some x, ना? Because all three of them are same, so let us assume that its value is x. So what we'll get is x is equal to square root of x square plus x square plus 2x square cos theta. Okay. So now square both sides. So x square is equal to x square into 2 plus 2 cos theta. So 2 plus 2 cos theta is equal to 1, which means cos theta is equal to minus half. Okay. Now cos theta is minus half. You must have learned in trigonometry what this means. So cos theta is equal to minus half first of all means that theta is an obtuse angle. Okay. Theta is greater than 90 degrees, less than 180 degrees. Okay. And cos theta is the same thing as minus cos of 180 minus theta. Okay. So this is from the ESTC rule in trigonometry. Okay. So from that you are getting that cos theta equal to minus half will imply that minus cos of 180 minus theta is equal to minus half, means that cos of 180 minus theta is half. So that means that 180 minus theta is 60 degrees. So that means that theta is 180 minus 60 degrees, which means that theta is equal to 120 degrees. So this should be your answer. Okay. So I'll just minimize this so you can go through the whole thing. And let me know, Harshita, if you understood the steps. So just go through this. In the meantime, I shall check for the other people's doubts. Okay, Ankit Tiwari, I've received your doubts from assignment number 2 in vectors, but actually I'll be discussing that in the next lecture. So you need not discuss the questions of assignment 2 from vectors in this class, because I'll be discussing that in the next lecture we have in foundation batch 2. So this is like if you have any backlog, so in the previous assignment or anything else that you have tried, if there are any doubts, you discuss that. In the current assignment which I've just given, if you have any doubts, we will discuss that in the class. Okay, so Ankit, this question is clear. Good. Let's move on to another question. uh, but what about Harshita? Is your doubt clear, beta? You have asked me this question, so have you understood? Okay, good. So now let's move on to the next one. So this is on page 12 of the module, question number 1. So people turn to page 12 of your module and go through question number 1. I will explain it. So in chapter exercise, oh, this beta I have not discussed in your class the component algebra yet. So don't do this question just now. Okay, Harshita. I will be discussing component algebra. It will take some time before we come to these questions. Both question 1 and 3 are based on component algebra concepts. So there are some new concepts that you will be learning in over the next 3-4 lectures. then you can come to this. Okay, Parth, your doubt is from which assignment? It is from assignment 2, isn't it? So Harshita, don't solve the questions on page number 12 yet. Okay, we have to discuss component algebra only. After that, you can do this. Okay. Anybody else from foundation batch 2 has doubts in assignment 1? Assignment 2, I will not be discussing the doubts right now because I'll be discussing that in the next lecture. This is only for anything that you have, like, like a backlog. This doubt session is to cover that. Okay, Sanika, question assignment 1, question number 14. Okay, so I will just move on to assignment 1, question number 14. No, Sanika, I think you are referring to assignment 2. Uh, No, Archita, those type of questions will not come. Only what is in your syllabus, what I've discussed in class, only those type of questions will come. Yeah, Sanika, I think what you are referring to is assignment 2. So I will be discussing assignment 2 in the class. Okay. We have a class, I think, either tomorrow or day after, one of the days. So I will discuss on that day. Okay. Okay. Anybody else having any doubt from assignment 1 in foundation batch 2? Okay. So now let's move on to the greenhouse student batches doubts. So greenhouse students, first of all, if you have any doubts from assignments 1 to 5, okay, let me know. We'll discuss that. Then I want to also cover if you have any doubts from the test paper. Yeah, but assignment 6 beta we'll be doing in class. So Tej, let assignment 6 doubts be there for right now. Let it be. Okay. Let us cover the backlog first. This the main reason for this doubt session is if anybody is having backlog from previous. If you are doing assignment 6 right now, you are up to date with the class. So no, you don't really need to bother so much. Yes, module questions very good. Rachit asked me assignment 4 question number 14 and Rachit question number 5. Okay, so let us do these two questions next. Okay, so first of all let's do assignment 4 question number 14, and then we will come to Rachit's question, which is question number 5 from exercise 1. Okay, Diti, I got your message also. Right, so let's move on to assignment 4 first. Okay, so greenhouse students, open your assignment 4. Okay, and go through question number 13 and 14. In that we will discuss. Okay, assignment number 4 question 13 and 14, just go through it all of you. We will discuss that next. Okay, so assignment 4 question number 13 is about the hexagon. So basically the method I told you is that you draw the hexagon and convert the given vectors into component form. Okay, and the easy way to draw the vectors, okay, would be like this: that you draw the hexagon such that one of the sides of the hexagon is lying along the horizontal. Okay, so Okay, so as I was telling you, start by drawing the hexagon. Okay, so very roughly speaking, this is your regular hexagon, where all these angles are 60 degrees. That's the main thing you have to understand. These angles are all 60 degrees. Okay. Yes, foundation batch 2 students can leave because you have not, I mean, come up to this section yet. Actually, you people have just started your course, so you don't need that much time for doubts. It's fine. Okay. So now, see, within this, if you take your XY axis system like this, you'll understand that the vector AB, the hexagon is given as 20 centimeters in side length. Okay. So the vector AB can be written as what? It can be written as 20 I cap. But similarly, what about the vector BC? I can see that the vector BC is such that this angle is 60 degrees because this is 60 here. Okay. So it is 20 centimeters at 60 degrees with respect to the x-axis. So the vector BC, which is this one, and this was the vector AB. So ये vector कैसा हो जाएगा? It will become 20 cos 60 I cap plus 20 sin 60 j cap. Okay. So that is 10 I cap plus 10 root 3 j cap. ठीक है. You understanding this, Diti? Okay. Now similarly, the next one, this vector CD, this one, you can see that here this angle is 60. So with respect to the direction of the x-axis, what kind of angle is making? 120 degrees. So the vector CD similarly will become 20 cos 120 degrees, and the y component will become 20 sin 120 degrees. So the vector CD will be written as minus 10 I cap plus 10 root 3 j cap. So this and this And similarly, now the vector DE is very simple. You can see this whole angle is 180 degrees. Okay, so it's along the negative x-axis. So the vector DE is minus 20 I cap. So now using this is one way of solving. Okay, you can check each of the options. So now, for example, option A is saying you have to find the resultant of sum of vectors AB, BC, CD, and DE, and check if it is perpendicular to AB. So do this. Once you got this C, you got the vector AB is 20 I cap, BC as 10 I cap plus 10 root 3 J cap, CD as minus 10 I cap plus 10 root 3 J cap, and finally the vector DE as minus 20 I cap. So now you just sum them up. Okay, do the addition. So the resultant of these, okay, so इनका जो resultant है वो कितना हो जाएगा 20 plus 10 minus 10 minus 20, so 0 I cap plus 20 root 3 J cap. So this resultant is basically 20 root 3 J cap, and you compare it with the vector A, you can see that they are perpendicular to each other. So that is becoming right. Okay, so that's like just one of the options. Now similarly we have to check all the options, but this is the general method of solving. Okay, so this is one way in which you can do the question, Riti. So like now you can check all the options from this. Okay, let's move on to question number 14. Okay, same assignment. Let's move on to question number 14 next. Okay, so this is saying that you have one displacement of 10 meters towards east, another one which is 20 meters 60 degrees north of west, and another one 30 meters at 60 degrees south of west. Then you have to find the resultant. So best way again is to draw the vectors. Okay, so in this question, if we start by first of all defining our coordinate frame in terms of the geographical directions. Okay. So if this is east, okay. Now start with the given information. Okay. So the given information for us is something like this, that the vector P is 10 meters towards east. So here that vector will become okay, like this, let's say. So this is a vector P, which is 10 meters towards the east. Okay. Now similarly, it's telling us that the vector Q is 20 meters at 60 degrees north of west. So how that vector will be looking now? Okay. So that vector will be looking like something like this now. This angle is 60. And similarly, now it's given to us that the vector R is 30 meters at 60 degrees south of west. Okay. So that one will be looking like this now. ऐसे होगा, you know. So now we want to find their resultant sum. So we want to find, so first of all we can use the component method. So in the component method, just express the vectors in component form. So P is 10 I cap. Q will become minus 10 I cap plus 10 root 3 J cap. Okay, you can just drop the perpendiculars and understand. And similarly, R will become minus 15 I cap plus, sorry, minus 15 root 2. Yes. So the sum of them, let's say this is R prime, this is the sum of them. So इनका sum कर दो. So it's minus 15 और इनका sum कर दो. Okay, so it's this. Okay. So you can see that the magnitude, this is okay, 10 root 3. Okay. That's the first thing. And you also want to see the direction it's at. Okay. So this particular vector r prime, this will be lying where? Now, if you check this out, minus 15 I cap minus 5 root 3 j cap. Okay. If you just check this out separately, this one as a vector is somewhere here. So now if you check out the angle, you can see this. So this angle is very easy to check out. Let's say this angle is some alpha. So you can see that tan alpha is 5 root 3 by 15. So that's 1 by root 3. So that means alpha is 30 degrees. Okay. So now if you compare it with the vector P, it's very easy to understand what kind of direction it is making. So the vector P itself in the same diagram was here. From here you can see. So this angle, let's say this is beta. So you can see that alpha is 30 degrees, means that beta is 150 degrees. So therefore, R prime is at 150 degrees with respect to vector P. Okay, so I'll just minimize this for your benefit and just understand the diagram. Later we will move on to also a geometrical way of solving this. So finish this, then we'll come to people's doubts in exercise 1 of the module also. Yeah, so just finish writing this down first. Okay, similarly you can check for P plus Q also. It's just 10 root 3 j cap. Okay, so let us also look at the geometrical way of solving this question. Then we will come back to more doubts from people. So hope you have finished writing this down, because next time moving on to the geometrical way of solving this. So the geometrical way of solving this question is going to be something like this. First you draw the vector E or the vector P. So that was 10 units like this. Then you pick up the same vector Q from above, but draw it head to tail from P, because you're adding them. So vector Q को जब हम on top of P draw करेंगे, so it will look like this. The vector Q will be somewhere here, like this. It will be 20 units. It will be such that this angle is 120 degrees, because that's the angle between P and Q. If you go back to this diagram, you'll understand the angle between P and Q was this one. It was 120 degrees. Okay. Similarly, the angle between Q and R, this whole angle here, you can see is that's also 120 degrees. So we'll make use of that. Okay. So now to this we have to add R. So the vector R, when we add it, वो यहाँ पे add होगा. We'll add like this. So this is 30 in length, and this will be such that, see this angle is 120. Okay. So now in this, what is our resultant sum of P, Q and R? It will be from the origin of P, which is nothing but this point over here, to the head of the last vector, which is this one. Okay. So the resultant sum of all these vectors will become this one. This is the resultant sum of this is what we call R prime. So this is what we want to find out. So geometrically, we can find it out in this way. Okay. Only my actual diagram will be slightly different than this. Okay. Just a second. Okay. So now you can see what's happening here, that to easily solve this geometrically, we can just do a additional construction here that just continue this line straight. Okay. So it intersects this over here. Okay. And now when this intersects this over here, you can also see that you get a triangle like this, where this are 60 degrees, and therefore this is also 60 degrees. Okay. So therefore, this whole thing is an equilateral triangle. So if this is an equilateral triangle, this side will have to be 20, okay, which is the same as this side. Okay. Okay. So which means that this will have to be 10. Okay. And also this will have to be 10. Okay. So now this is quite easy to calculate from this. Okay. To calculate this, you have to just understand that this triangle, okay, where one side is the dotted line. So I'm just drawing that triangle separately. Okay. So this is 10. Okay. Then you have this side. Which is also 10 in length, here to here. Okay. But this angle here is 60. So this angle inside is 120. And then this third side is the side we want to calculate. So we want to find out how much this is. Okay. So to find that out is very simple. What you do here is, this is an isosceles triangle. This side is equal to this side. And this exterior angle is 60. So this angle is equal to this angle. So alpha is 30 degrees. And then you drop this perpendicular and take this as x. So this is also x on this side. They are congruent triangles. Okay. So x will become 10 cos 30, because you can see in that diagram cos 30 is equal to x by 10. So 5 root 3 x is becoming. So therefore now r prime is 2x. So r prime is becoming 10 root 3. So magnitude of p plus q plus r is 10 root 3. Okay, so I'm just minimizing this a bit so you can copy this down also. Okay. Okay, so next, I have received a couple of doubts from assignment number 3, question 8, asked by Yash and oh, there's only one. Okay, so we will discuss question number 3 from, I mean, question number 8 from assignment 3. Then we will come to the exercise doubts. Plus, I want to leave some time in the end for discussing the doubts from major test 1 also for you people. So we will come to that. Okay, I'm coming to assignment 3. Let's first do the doubts in question in yes, Tej, I have discussed the doubts. Acha, have I discussed the vectors doubts in class from the major test? Okay, okay, then it's fine. Then I don't need to discuss that. We will continue with the doubts from the assignments. Okay. So let's come to this thing first. Exercise 1. Okay, so we'll start with question number 1 of assignment of exercise 1. Couple of students have asked that. So module exercise 1, question number 1. Let's go through this. So this says that the sum of magnitudes of two forces acting at a point is 16 newtons. So suppose we have two forces A and B. It says that the sum of their magnitudes is 16 newtons. Or in simple language, we can write that mod A plus mod B is 16. That's our first equation. And it also says that if their resultant is normal to the smaller force and has a magnitude of 8 newtons, then the forces are how much? So their resultant, okay, is such that the magnitude of the resultant is 8 newtons, okay, and this is perpendicular to vector A, assuming that the magnitude of A is less than the magnitude of B. So this is the additional information that is given. Okay. So based on this information now, okay, let us draw a vector triangle. So when we draw that vector triangle, it should be such that If this is the vector E, then the vector B should be something like this, so that the resultant is perpendicular. Getting it? So this is the vector E. The vector B should be something like this, so that their resultant is now perpendicular to A. Okay. So the resultant's magnitude is 8, and the resultant is perpendicular to A. We have taken care of that. Now we also have to use this information. So how we'll use this information is like this, that suppose E is X, then B's magnitude is 16 minus X. So now we made use of this information also. So now just use the Pythagoras theorem. Okay, so therefore 16 minus X square is 8 square plus X square. So X square cancels out. 32X becomes 256 minus 64. So X becomes, this will be how much? So this becomes the easiest way of solving this question. Quite straightforward. All right, so this is question number 1. So next we will come to question number 5 and 8. Okay, so finish writing this, then come to question 5, 8 and 12. These three we will do. So go through exercise 1, these 3 questions next we'll be discussing. Also 11 and 13. So next go through question number 5, please, all of you. We'll discuss. Okay, so question 5, what you have to do is you have to kind of extend the triangle inequality a little bit. Okay, so let me explain how that works. Okay. So for example, if you have E plus B plus C is equal to 0, you know that magnitude of C is equal to magnitude of A plus B. Okay. So that means C should be less than equal to A plus B. Okay, because so this implies this and then this implies this. Okay, because as out. Okay, so for example, if E is equal to 10, B is equal to 10, and C is equal to, let us say, 25, then A plus B plus C equal to 0 is not possible. Okay, so you can understand this. Okay. Now, similarly, if I have the resultant of 4 vectors as 0, okay, then okay, okay. Now you think of the quantity E plus B itself. Okay, ये E plus B का जो magnitude है is always less than this. Okay, so therefore now you think this. Okay, so the magnitude of this will always less than equal to, is this clear to all of you? Okay, it's like, see, you're treating this as a new vector. Suppose this is a new vector E. Okay, so suppose E plus B is equal to E. So therefore A plus B plus C is equal to E plus C. So therefore you can see that mod of A plus B plus C is equal to mod of E plus C, and by definition that has to be less than equal to E plus C. Okay, or this. Okay. So that's how this statement comes in. Okay. So this is statement 2 and this is statement 1. Now connect these two. Okay. So it's saying this thing is less than equal to the sum of this and this, and in this itself has a maximum value of this. So when will the left hand side be maximum? When in the right hand side this is maximum. So the maximum of this is A plus B. So connecting these two statements, we can say that A plus B plus C has to be less than the sum of their magnitudes. Okay. So in other words, this is the condition for this. Okay. So again, for example, suppose I have a situation where A is 5, B is 7, C is 8, and D is 27. Then here A plus B plus C plus D cannot be 0. Why? Because D, which is 27, is greater than, okay, this value is 20. Okay. But suppose we have an example where A is 10, B is 10, C is 15, and D is 30. Then yes, here A plus B plus C plus D is 0 is possible. Okay. And it will happen in the situation where the vector diagram looks something like this. They have to form a closed quadrilateral. So this is a case where but in this case you can see that these cannot form the sides of a quadrilateral. Okay. Because D is greater than the sum of this. So therefore, yeah, matlab, now you have to just check the options from that. Rachit. But main thing is that first of all you learn here that how the concept of triangle inequality for the resultant of three vectors to be 0, how we use triangle inequalities. Now that is extended over here for a situation where you're looking at the resultant of four vectors to become 0. So first we understand this, that from the three vectors condition, how we've extended it to four vectors condition. Then you can take any examples and understand. So hope this is clear. Okay. So just make a note of this if you are writing this down. Then we'll move on to the next, which is I think 11th question. Or is it question number 8? Yeah, 8. So write this down, then we'll move on to question number 8. Okay, so hope you have gone through question number 8. So all you have to do is calculate the dot product in question 8. Yeah, Tej, you want me to scroll up to the previous question, is it? Okay. So is it clear now, this question? Acha, just slightly. Okay. Okay, so in question 8, you have to just use the dot product to find the work done. So I'll just explain the question. This should be very easy. So the force is given to us in component form. Okay. In newtons, the force is given to us like this. And the body moves the distance 10 meters along the y-axis. So the displacement will become 10 j cap in meters. So work done is the dot product of force and displacement. So when you take this dot product, you can see it will become 150 Newton meters or 150 joules. That is the work done. Okay. Let's move on to question 11 next. So 11 is saying that a particle is moving eastward with a velocity of 5 meters per second. So let us write that as our initial velocity. Our initial velocity is 5 meters per second towards east. Okay. And after a time of 10 seconds, our final velocity becomes 5 meters per second, but now towards north. Okay. So it changes from 5 meters per second eastwards to 5 meters per second northwards. So we have to find the average acceleration. Okay. So the average acceleration is just change in velocity upon change in time, or it is final velocity minus initial velocity divided by the time interval. So this is one of the easiest questions in that sense. Okay, all you have to do is you have to express the directions correctly. So you can use component algebra, you can just use simple geometry also. Either way, it is not too difficult. So if this is your east and this is your north, your velocity is changing from the initial value, which was 5 meters per second towards east. So it would have been like this. To your final value, which is like this towards north. So your change in velocity in this diagram, that is the important thing. What will be your change in velocity? It is final minus initial. So I've drawn both initial and final from common points. So final minus initial कैसे निकालेंगे? By this side, head to head. Just using a sort of, parallelogram law kind of thing. But here, that parallelogram is a right angle, a square type of parallelogram. So this is the parallelogram which is now a square formed by the two vectors. So this is your, in this diagram, this is our delta V. This is the change in velocity, final minus initial. So you can see that its magnitude will be 5 root 2 and this angle will be 45. Okay. So this quantity here will be 5 root 2 towards which direction? Towards this direction, So it is between north and west. Northwest direction. Divided by the time interval which was 10 seconds. So our average acceleration is, as you can see, 1 by root 2 meters per second square towards northwest. Okay, or more precisely, you can say 45 degrees north of west, or you can even say 45 degrees west of north. Both are fine because this is your north direction, this is your west direction, and it's actually bisecting. The delta V is a vector like this, so it's easy to understand, no? Okay, so just make a note of these two questions, those of you who have the doubts in this. No, Kunal, you cannot do. No, you are calculating the difference of the vectors, so you have to do it by head to head method. No? Or you can use component algebra. The other thing you can do is, if you don't want to use the geometry here, you just write like this, no? That your initial velocity in component form you can write as 5 I cap. Your final velocity in component form is 5 j cap. So your delta V will become final minus initial. So 5 j cap minus 5 I cap. Now you draw this vector. When you draw this vector, you will see it's like this. Okay, so 12 and 13 will be the next two questions we'll discuss. So complete this and move on to question 12 and 13. Yeah, so go through question 12 and 13, both of them we'll discuss. So make a diagram for question number 12. Then I'll explain how to solve it. Okay, so for question 12, we will understand a very interesting property of geometry, which is the regular polygon type of property. Okay, so pay attention here. It's a very interesting type of question also. So what is happening here is that it says that five forces. Okay. What happened, Babu? Yeah. Five forces of 10 newtons each act at one point such that they are lying in one common plane, so they are coplanar, and the angles between any two forces are equal. Okay, so imagine you have all the forces which are converging into this point, they are acting at this particle or at this point, okay, in such a way that the angle between any two forces is the same. Okay, so that's the interesting thing about the question. We have to draw the five force vectors such that the angles between any two of them is the same and they are lying in the same plane. So let's say if this is one of our forces, okay, then the other one has to be something like this. The other one has to be something like this. Then another one has to be something like this. And another one has to be something like this. So five forces in all, such that the angles between any two forces are the same. Okay, so this angle has to be equal to this angle, has to be equal to this angle. These five angles have to be the same, and the forces are suppose labeled as F1, F2, 5, and all of them are equal. So magnitude of F1 is equal to magnitude of F2. Okay. So 10 newtons each, and okay, and also theta will become 360 by 5 or 72 degrees. Okay, now see, this is the thing that presents a problem for us, because it's 72 degrees, you know that we can't use trigonometry that easily, or we cannot use component algebra that easily. No, because we don't know cos and sine of 72. Cos of 72 is how much, and sine of 72. But we can then use a table and all that, but that's an avoidable method. So let's see if there's some other method that we can use. Okay, so for that, to understand, so for the resultant of these, we will make use of a theorem from geometry. Okay, we will use the geometrical properties of regular polygons. Okay, so let's discuss a little bit about geometry of regular polygons, then we'll come back to this particular question. So what happens is, for a n-sided regular polygon, okay, so let's start with the simplest example, n equal to 3. So what we'll talk about, it will become an equilateral triangle. So if you look at an equilateral triangle in context of vectors, in context of vectors, equilateral triangle will be such that if it is like forces F1, F2 and F3 are same in magnitude such that this angle is 120, this angle is 120. Okay, so n equal to 3, so you can also see that theta is equal to 360 by 3 or 120. So if these forces you were showing at acting at a particular point, you would show them like this, that the force F1 is acting like this. So the force F2 would be at 120 degrees to it. So the force F3, अगर इनके मैग्नीट्यूड सेम है and they are acting at 120 degrees with respect to each other, these two figures are interchangeable. So you can see that. So basically what we are getting, if three forces of same magnitude act at a point such that they are coplanar, that is lying in a plane, okay, and theta is equal to 120 degrees between F1 and F2 or F2 and F3, okay, or F1 and F3, what will happen is that the resultant will become 0. Okay. This is the special case for n equal to 3. Now, like that, if you visualize the case where n equal to 4, you will see that F1 plus F2 plus F3 plus F4 will also become 0 if their magnitudes are equal and theta is equal to 90 degrees, that is 360 divided by 4, so by 4 between each pair. Okay. Because then they would look like this. Look like this. So like this, now if you take the case of n equal to 5, so you are taking the case of a regular pentagon. So what will happen in the case of a regular pentagon? If you draw a regular pentagon, So let's say it looks something like this. So what you'll also see is that if these are five equal sides, then these are five equal angles. Okay. And that theta, okay. And also if you are to join, this is the centroid, then again these angles would all be theta. Okay. And in this figure now, this side would be equal to this side. So these would all be isosceles triangles such that this angle is equal to this angle. So alpha you can see would be so each of these angles would be 54. Okay. So now if you were to think of these like force vectors, you would see that if you drew them such that they are all acting at a point, they would look like our earlier figure. But from this diagram, you can understand that drawn head to tail, they are forming a regular closed pentagon. So therefore, the resultant of these forces would be a null vector. Okay. And when you draw them like that, acting at a common point like this, they will look like the diagram we had drawn earlier. Okay. So the answer here will become that the resultant is 0. Because when drawn head to tail, okay, form the five sides of a regular pentagon. Okay. So it's a closed shape. So that implies that the resultant is 0. Okay, so just make a run through this and understand this in detail. Okay, so if we just generalize this to n-sided polygon, so here it is applying to a regular pentagon, but if we generalize this result to a regular n-sided polygon, so since we are taking a general value of n, so we can't really draw the polygon, but we can draw part of it. Okay. So if we just draw the polygon in such a way that we are showing any two or three consecutive sides like this of it. So this is, let's say, F1. Again, we are thinking in terms of force vectors, like that it continues. And from the other side, it comes back to Fn. Okay. So now if I look at the centroid of this polygon, okay, so this will be such that these angles will always be the same. So general formula wise, it's n sides. So these angles will become 360 divided by n. Okay. And the other thing is, because these will be equal, so these angles will be equal. Okay. So you can see alpha is 360 minus theta by 2. Sorry, 180 minus, my mistake. Like that. Okay. So that also means that now, if you look at this angle, this will become the same as that theta. This is the same as that theta. So the angle between the vectors f1, f2, f2, f3, etc., that's the same as the angle subtended by each of the sides at the center, which is 360 by n. So this is the general geometrical property of the regular n-sided polygon. Okay. So remaining doubts of this one we will discuss in class. Don't worry. Okay. So there are some doubts and all pending. Okay, especially Yash, who have asked question number 8 of assignment 3. So we'll discuss that in the next doubt session. In the meantime, I will send you some hint about that. Okay. I have discussed that in class also, so you can go through that particular. Uh, yeah, what happened, Diti? What is the question? Yeah, the resultant for any closed figure will be 0, no? Because closed figure means your head of the final vector is where the tail of the original vector was. Now, the origin of the first vector is coinciding with the head of the last vector. That means it's a closed figure. So the resultant has to be 0, no? Think in terms of displacements. आपका पहला vector जहाँ से पर भी है, wherever it has started with, if on completing everything you come back here, then your resultant is 0, no? So that's a logical thing. Okay. Yeah, coming back to, so we'll conclude here today. So coming back to, yes, you had that question in that assignment 3. Please, matlab, in the meantime, go through the lecture notes or the recording from that particular lecture where I've explained it, because it's one of the critical questions and I've explained in a lot of detail how to draw the two vector triangles and work it out. And if you have any difficulty with that particular explanation, then just send me a screenshot of it. I'll help you out with understanding it. Okay. Okay. Thanks for attending. That's it for today, people. I'll be seeing you all in class, I think, tomorrow, right? So we will continue with the module questions and also discuss cross products in the next lecture. Projections and cross products, that will be the next thing. So that's it for today. Thank you, people.